actually affecting our life, you know. And and I just want to tell you all what happened. You know, we actually planned our 36th annual congress of MSN last year, but we had to postpone it to this year because of coronavirus. And this year we are doing MSN Congress together with CAS meeting. So because of that, we wanted to do it in Penang, but because of coronavirus, because of COVID-19 pandemic, we decided to come to KL because there is no interstate traveling. And once we're in KL, we thought we can do it hybrid mode, but unfortunately we can't do hybrid mode because of the height of COVID-19 pandemic in Malaysia. And I'm quite sure all of you are very busy now taking care of COVID-19 patients and also non-COVID-19 patients that are actually now in the hospital. I'm quite sure it will affect a lot of dialysis center, and we will try to help as much as possible. Next slide, please. So as I said that it is impossible to do a congress without the sponsors. So I would like to say thank you very much to our platinum sponsor, that is Estella, our golden sponsors, Novartis and also Sanofi. Next slide, please. Silver sponsor, our Fresenius Medical Care, Biopharma, Baxter. Brown sponsor, Kirin Malaysia. Next slide, please. The other sponsors are Roche, AstraZeneca, Takeda, Nova Nordic, Dr. Reddy, Cantel, and BI. Thank you very much for your support. Thank you very much to the sponsor, because we actually changed. Initially, we thought that it will be some physical form of this meeting. So they actually prepared for the booth, to prepare the booth as a physical meeting. But due to this pandemic, we changed it to virtual, and they had to do a virtual booth. So I really suggest and ask help for everybody to visit their booth in our platform. Next slide, please. So up to now, we have about 851 delegates, so that is a good number for me. And we have about 49 speakers. So thank you everybody who actually, speaker who agreed to join and talk during our Congress, and also delegates for supporting us. We hope that it will be a memorable Congress. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. I just want, there are a lot of interesting session in this Congress. You know, there are session on COVID-19, the session of CKD, MDD, and of course cardiovascular disease in our CKD patients. But I just want to highlight few that I think it is important, and all of them are important. But previous slide, please. So previous slide, please. Sorry. One of them is NRR session. NRR session will be right after this. You know, I think this is important because we need to know how to move forward. You know, when you have data, what are you going to do with the data? We've been having NRR for so many years. Will this data change our policy, or this data just for us to present during Congress, or this data just for us to give to other society, you know? I think we spend a lot of money, so I think the data should actually help us in changing policy rather than just for a presentation. You know, so I think presentation, you should publish the paper, so you present the paper. It shouldn't be a registry. So I hope this registry can actually help us to change the policy. And during this session also, we will invite all the dialysis center to join. You know, we hope that they will join and ask questions. As you know that we are now in ENRR, there are a lot of questions, what parameters that we should enter, what parameters we shouldn't enter, whether it takes too much time during this pandemic. So we hope that it's going to be a very fruitful session where the dialysis center will actually ask questions, and all questions are good questions. You know, there is no stupid question, and we want to listen from you. So we actually open this session to all dialysis center for free, so that they will come in later to discuss about our session. as the regional society presentation, as you know that we have a good collaboration with Taiwan Society and also Thailand Society. As you can see, there will be two presentations from this society. So that is good for us to see how people doing things in this world, you know. So we're not going to look at ourselves only. It's good to look at other people, how they do things, and share what are their uh, challenges, you know, in treating CKD patient, especially in this pandemic. Don't forget to join lunch and high tea symposium. So please join. Of course, there is no lunch and high tea, but the topics all are very good. So I hope that you will join. We will discuss about the new treatment in diabetic kidney disease, a new treatment in CKD, and new treatment in dialysing this patient. So our dialysis patient. So I think it is interesting. I hope you can actually join us. There will be ISN MSN joint sessions. So it will be joined by the president of ISN, Prof. Agnes Fugo, and also the past president of ISN, that is Dr. Prof. Vivek Jha. And Prof. Vivek Jha will speak on the CKD as a public health problems. You know, Prof. Agnes will introduce and promote a World Kidney Day, WCN World Congress of Nephrology 2022 that will be held in Malaysia. So I will talk a bit more on that later. And of course, our own Dato' Ong Lok Meng will speak on our perspective, how we will move forward, you know, with our prevalence of CKD that keep rising in Malaysia. We cannot treat CKD, you know, or acute kidney injury without the help from other doctors, you know, the medical officer, the general practitioner, and of course the family medicine specialist. So there will be a session that made specifically and for the family medicine specialist session. So we will discuss what are their problems and how they treat CKD patients. You know, sometimes we are in the hospital, so we are looking at the more advanced cases, and it is important to prevent them from getting advanced CKD. So I think that is important, and we hope that there are a lot of questions during that. And finally, there's a debate. It won't be like a true debate because it's going to be virtual. So there will be no slapping and punching, and because of that, we will change it. It's going to be more like viewpoints rather than debate. Next slide, please. As I said that I hope that all of you join CAS. You know, there's still time for us to register for CAS. CAS will be from 25th to 28th July, just after this Congress. Please join CAS, and the registration is still open. You can text the secretariat that if you want to register. So please join. I hope to see you in CAS right after this Congress. Next slide, please. So I have for half an hour, so I'm just telling my council, our friends, my council member, that I have to speak and goreng for half an hour. So I have another 15 minutes to talk. So I just want to introduce our council member that been working very hard during this pandemic. You know, we do not have physical meeting. There is no coffee. We are just staying at home and doing our virtual meeting. I just want to introduce one by one. This is Dr. Iqbal. He is from UITM. He's the one that giving ideas and how to treat a patient, and at least a perspective from the university and a perspective of a younger. Dr. Iqbal is not young, but is a younger consultant nephrologist. So that is very good. You all know Prof. Lim Sukun, a very famous consultant nephrologist from always will say no to whatever I say, so I will mute the Zoom meeting whenever he wants to talk. So he's my good friend, and he actually academician, so he gave a perspective from a university on MSN. Prof. Chris, Professor Chris is from UPM. Again, somebody, my good friend that actually give ideas and perspective from universities, and he is currently the Honorary Secretary of MSN. You know, Dr. Sunita is the ex-president, been helping me in making a lot of difficult decisions, been supporting. So I would like to say thank you very much, Sunita, for helping me for the last 1 year. Dr. Brian from Kulim, again, giving us ideas of the younger consultant nephrologists. That is very good. You know, I think we have to move. So we have to move with time. So Dr. Brian is advising us. Dr. Fat is from UPM, again, Fadlina from UPM, again, giving us idea of how to manage MSN and in the perspective of university. And she is a very tech savvy, so she's helping us with a lot of things together with Dr. Iqbal. Dr. Esther is our honorary treasurer that helping us to look at numbers because I'm not good with numbers, so that's very good. And we have Dr. Lily from Seremban, and Dr. Lily is our vice president helping us to make a correct decision. Dr. Silva, our PITS nephrologist, our PITS consultant nephrologist, helping us to look at other perspective of nephrology because majority of us are adult nephrologists. So Dr. Silva helping us to do that. And my good friend Dr. Morris, you know, helping us to look from the private perspective, you know, so that's really good. He's helping us to do that, and he always said that we can do anything, you know, we can do anything. He said that we should do, we try, that we have to do. So that's very good. Again, I would like to say thank you very much to our secretary, that is Miss Jaida Abdul Razak, because without her, this is impossible for us to run MSN, especially in this era where we don't meet each other. So she's the one that will what we call that, make sure the meetings are correct and contacting other people. Next slide, please. So there are a lot of committee in MSN, but I just want to pick up few that we just actually create this committee. One is the CME committee headed by Prof. Chris, Dr. Fadlina, Dr. Iqbal, and Dr. Dr. Maurice Wu. They are the one that actually organize MSN Nephrology Grand Round. But if you notice that for the last 1 year, we do have MSN webinars. So this is not easy task. They had to go out and find sponsorship. They had to go out and find speakers for this MSN webinar. So thank you very much. And it's become a regular webinars, and a lot of people actually join this webinar. So this is very good, and we're going to continue with our webinars. Next slide, please. We have also MSN Education Committee that is by Dr. Fad, Dr. Iqbal, Dr. Haikal, Dr. Eddie, Dr. Rustinda, Prof. Rustinda, and also Dr. Suryati. If you see that when we talk about education, we are talking about public and also health professional. We don't want to look at only health professional, we will look at public. Now MSN go out and look at public and try to educate public. So I think that is good. And we have to educate public. Together we have to educate the health professionals. So I will go later. And they are the one that came up with the new training model for PIC training, and also organize the World Kidney Day. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. As I said, that we have to go out and actually educate the public. So we actually in working close with mybuapinggang.com, that I think is really good, and also your dialysis journey, where I think this is where public can get the correct information. So if you have patient with advanced chronic kidney disease, so I suggest you advise them to visit this these websites where they can look at the modalities of renal replacement therapy. So please support this website, and please use this website. It can really reduce the time you actually see patients in OCO. Next slide, please. And that's about public. And of course, we go out and trying to educate the healthcare worker. We had a questionnaire with the help of support of AstraZeneca to look at primary care physician perception toward management of chronic kidney disease in Malaysia. So we had this survey, and we will write the report. My friend Dr. Nani will write this report and try to publish it. Next slide, please. So we had good response. We have about 400 family medicine specialists, medical officer, and GP who actually joined this survey. Next slide, please. We asked question whether they think a proper early intervention is good. So majority of them said yes, early intervention is good. So they know. General practitioner, family medicine specialist, internal medicine subspecialist, and MOs. They all know that early intervention is good. Next slide, please. but we have to take what they think, because there's still a proportion of them think it's really difficult to refer to nephrology with multiple reasons. You say that GP thought 17% difficulty in referring to nephrologists, family medicine specialists about 24%, internal medicine specialists about 50% of them think it's difficult, and medical officer about 28%, think it's difficult to refer to nephrologists. And I understand that the limitation to refer to nephrologists, we do understand, but what can we do? Next slide, please. In that case, we know that we have to educate them. We know that we cannot take all the patients to see in our nephrology clinic. So we have to go out. Because of that, MSN, with collaboration with MOH and also AstraZeneca, will develop MSN mobile application. Now we are at 70% completion, so we are about to sign MOU with AstraZeneca. So I think once it's been launched, it's going to help us in managing patient. It's going to help the GP and MOs to managing patient. With that also, we will have decision aid tools in this app. We have patient CKD risk profiler, and also contact nephrology. They can contact the nephrology based on the NSR list. So don't worry, it's only based on NSR list. So at least they know who to contact, who the nearest hospital to contact when they have problem. Next slide, please. We want to do more. We want to do more, and we want to create a platform. So we actually already created a pilot project, a Telegram channel, a platform where the GP, the medical officer, and also the family medicine can ask questions directly to the nephrologist. Of course, our pilot project is been done in Cheras area for obvious reasons. So in that Telegram channel, I have about 43 GPs and family medicine specialists that will ask me questions if they have any problems. So, and I think by doing this, we can reduce the referral and we can help in managing patients. We also working close with Ministry of Health now to produce a virtual training for GPs, MOs, and family medicine specialists. And we are about 50%, about 40% completion now. Hopefully by early next year, there will be a platform where we actually train and certify family medicine specialists, medical officer, and so GP. Next slide, please. And MSN Corporate and Communication Committee is really important, headed by Dr. Morris, and we have a lot of members here, mainly from private sector, to actually discuss what are their problems in private sectors. I think it's important to listen, our members' problems. So this committee will look at the problem is private sectors, and one of the biggest problem is dealing with CCAP, as you all know, and we are in communication with CCAP. We will come up with a criteria for longer licensing in HD center, and also maybe also criteria to allow indirect bidding of RO system. Next slide, please. We again, I don't think we should stay only in Malaysia. We need collaboration. Dr. Sunita previously had a collaboration and MOU signed with the Thailand Society of Nephrology, with the Taiwan Society of Nephrology. This year, we already signed MOU with the Korean Society of Nephrology. So hopefully after this pandemic, we can send you all to Korea, not to do a plastic surgery, but to actually learn nephrology there. And they also can send their Korean nephrologists here. And recently, we actually in the process of signing MOU with ANZSN, that is Australian and New Zealand Society of Nephrology. So we will have a lot of collaboration with other societies too. Next slide, please. So there are many other things we do. COVID-19, I have to say that headed by mainly Dr. Smita helped me, and we actually put out, helped me and the others, put up a lot of criteria and guideline how to treat COVID-19 on our website. We want to push a PD program in Malaysia. We went to see SOXO, and we're going to see the private insurance companies, and we in the process of creating key opinion leader for AKI with collaboration with Baxter. Next slide, please. So not to forget, I would like to promote our WCN 2022 that will be held in KL next year from 24th to 27th next year in Kuala Lumpur. This is hosted by MSN and also Asian Pacific Society of Nephrology. So please send your abstract, you know, the deadline is 20th on September, in September. So please send your abstract. So next slide, please. I think that's all, ladies and gentlemen. Please join, and this is the lobby. Please join the session and please visit the exhibition hall and please review the abstract. Wabillahi taufiq wa hidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. And I hope this meeting will be a fruitful one. Thank you, everybody.
Good morning, everyone. This is supposed to be the NRR session. I need to ask for your patience as we have some technical difficulties. We will be shortly starting with a slight delay. Please hold. Good morning, everyone. I'm Sunita Bhavanandan from the Department of Nephrology of Hospital Kuala Lumpur, and it's my pleasure to chair this NRR session, which is following our usual tradition of being the starting act for the MSN annual congresses. Today, we have the opportunity to hear the key findings and also about the directions for NRR from Dr. Ong Lok Meng and Professor Goh Bak Leong, who are the chair and co-chair respectively of the National Renal Registry. So we will have a live Q&A session at the end of the session, in which the panel of speakers will be joined by Mr. Chu Cheh Lu, who is the manager of the National Renal Registry. But as we proceed through the session, please do feel free to post any questions that you have on the Q&A session, which is on the right side of the screen at the lower end. So to start the ball rolling, we will have Professor Dr. Goh Bak Leong, who's a senior consultant nephrologist and head of the Department of Nephrology at Hospital Serdang. Professor Goh is the current co-chair for the NRR, and he's going to share with us on two topics. First, what is notable before 2020, and then secondly, an overview of the MDTR up to 2020. So Prof. Goh, over to you.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to NRR Symposium in conjunction with the 36th Annual Congress of MSN. Thank you, Dr. Sunita, for your kind introduction. I'm going to talk and discuss with what is notable in NRR before 2020, and also followed by the overview of MDTR report. Some of the figures, but vast majority of the analysis will be still 2018 or 2019. As we know, NRR is been established since 1993, and you can see that these are the main objectives of the NRR. And of course, there are also offspring of NRR, which is EMOS and MRRB. And over the years, there are many reports which have been published, initially in the hard copies, but more recently is available in the soft copies. The latest NRR report was 2018, which was in the soft copy and involving a few chapters. Hopefully, in the very near future, you have access to data for 2019 as well as 2020. As you all know, there are also migrations of traditional paper-based NRR to eNRR. And the pioneer who has contributed much to this migration is Dr. Wong, Hinseng, and Dr. Ghazali, the previous chair of NRR, as well as editors of MDTR. What has NRR achieved among the peers in Asia Pacific region as well as in the world? And you can see that for the registry rating, we are ranked quite high. It's almost a 3A ranking, and as far as in the world ranking is concerned, there are only 7 registry which has scored these 3-star or 3A ratings. So we are in the league together with NZ, together with Singapore Renal Registry. And we are among the earliest in the Southeast Asia. There are only 6 registries has 4A rating globally, and you can see here, including Uruguayan, UK, Scottish, French, Finnish, and Danish registry. So we have achieved quite tremendous achievement. There are, as part of 2020, there are 880 dialysis centers with 827 HD centers. There are 53 PD centers reported as SDP, and there are 56 transplant follow-up centers. And you can see the SDP for the MDTR has grown tremendously, with the latest numbering about 936. And out of the 936, only 50 plus of transplant SDP and another 53 are PD. The rest 827 are hemodialysis. This is the distributions among the providers. Vast majority now is provided by the private, which is 56.7%. In the public sectors is only 18.2%, and in the NGO is about 25.1%. Sorry, I think it's reversed. In the public sector is 25.1, and the NGO is 18.2. Sorry for the typo. With regards to compliance with data submission, we have moved to a new data submissions compliance parameters, which is introduced by the current chair of NR, which is Dato' Ong Lok Meng. Previously, you can see that with the previous format, the compliance is ranged between 60 to 79%. And also, we are mainly collecting data, for example, on CRF received, on HD patients data submission, etc. What have we transformed and moved up to? This is a very nice patient's notification, and we are capturing how soon they report with each new patient, for example. And you can see, vast majority of the patient, they took about more than 60 days to 180 for the new dialysis patient to report to NRR. Only about 31.6% reported within the first month of starting dialysis in respective center. So I think there are a lot of room of improvement here. This is for patient outcome notification. Again, you can see that almost half of the notification took more than 2 months to 6 months, and only about 49% reported patient's outcome within 1 month of the events happen. So the events that happen includes mortality or transfer from one modality to another. The other thing is the annual return. You can see as well here, the annual return form submitted is quite high, about 90%, 98.1%. But if you break it down, I think we can improve further. For annual returns, which achieve more than 80%, are quite high. It's across the public sector, private sector, and NGO. Only very few has taken lesser than 80%. So this is annual return submission rate is much better than the notification. We hope that for those who attended this symposium, you will work very hard towards notifying new patient within the first 30 days. So about 40% submitted from the first month until the October. About 60% the annual return submitted in November and December. The other things that NRR has introduced is this center report card, which has also moved away from the previous heavily emphasized on clinical outcome to more of a management outcome as well as performance outcome. So these are examples of the center participation card, and you can see that it is to do with how fast they notify new patients, how fast they notify when the patient has an outcome event such as mortality, transplanted, or move from one modality to another modality, or patient move out from one center, and also the return of annual return. Are they able to achieve more than 80%, etc.? So, as I mentioned before, the recognitions for the participation criteria has shifted from the previous format to the current format, whereby for patients notification, it's notify only new intake if possible, and the outcome events also notify patient outcome within 30 days. And for the annual return, minimum submissions of 80% of annual return is required. For the new dialysis center, you can see that there are total of 93 for the last 2 years. And in 2020, during the pandemic, we have still 36 new centers.
Hello, everyone. We seem to be having the difficulties with transmission. Please bear with us. We will sort this out in a minute. Hello, everyone. We are going to proceed to the next talk while awaiting Prof. Go to be able to join us back. So it's my pleasure to introduce to you our next speaker, who is Datuk Dr. Ong Lok Meng from Hospital Pulau Pinang. Dr. Ong is a senior consultant nephrologist and he's the head of the Department of Medicine at Penang Hospital. He's also the current national head of the Ministry of Health Nephrology Services. And he's also the chair of the NDTR. So today, Dr. Ong is going to speak to us about what is possible beyond 2021. Over to you, Dato.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Sorry for all this technical difficulties. This is the first time we are doing it live, so bear with us with all these difficulties. This was supposed to be the last slide on how we are going to move forward, what is the direction and current changes compared to before. But anyhow, because Prof. Go had some technical issues, I think I will deliver mine first. So we have come a long way since our beginning. Just to share with you some history of what has happened. We started in the Department of Nephrology, Hospital Kuala Lumpur since 1992, and our first report was in 1993. And this was initially confined to Ministry of Health, but later we switched to, in 1995, we switched to MSN. And then we got the others to participate in, so it became truly a more national registry, and we renamed it a Malaysian Dialysis Transplant Registry. Okay? We just still call it NRR for short, but really this is the MDTR registry. Okay? And together with that, the MOS sharing system or organ sharing system was first published, and then subsequently the NRR office, as I said, initially was based in HKL, and that has moved several times. Since all the data initially was collected on paper copy, and I think most of you are still aware of those paper copies, so it's very cumbersome. So we have decided to move into electronic copy in 2007. Okay? But meanwhile, we had other registries to share with. We also included the GN registry. Okay, so in 2007, I believe we moved from the, as I said, the paper copy uh, um, to the electronic submission, and that was 2017, as you can see, number 11. So web-based copy, so that we can expedite the data submission. Okay. So and more recently, we have gone on to change the EMOS system to MyCAS system, and where the donor recipient selection was also changed. Okay, so finally, the NRR office is in VUE, is in Q Central now. So if you when this pandemic has settled down, then you can visit the NRR office, which is centrally located in KL Central. Okay. So as Prof. Go has shown you as well, we have quite a number of increase in SDP or source data providers and the dialysis centers. And as you can see, there are now 952, of which the private has dominated. Okay, so but bearing in mind that these are just preliminary reporting. Okay, um, okay. Again, these are preliminary. I don't want to show you the 2020 data because Prof. Go is supposed to show you that. Okay, but our last publication was 2018, where we had 8,000 over new dialysis patients and 44,000 uh, uh, existing patients or prevalent patients. Okay, and that has changed quite a lot. Um, okay, so this is just to show you what the ENRR homepage looks like. I hope you all are familiar with this. If there's any issue that you face, then please communicate with the Mr. Chu and the NRR office to get your 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 issue sorted out. Okay, so so when you log in, you can get your summary report, patient profile alerts, announcement, and on the left panel is on the system communication panel. Okay, so as you log in, then we have patient particulars, patient registry, data query, annual returns, transplant listing, center management, and change requests. So if there's any request for changes, please use this module, because once you have submitted the data, we don't uh, so you click into that change or request module. Okay, so as Prof. Go has shown you, we are trying to get more timely notifications, right? And in the past, everything was, because it was paper copy, we crammed everything into December, November, December, January. And that we didn't have a choice because that was paper copy, right? But with electronic, we don't want you to do that anymore, right? And we really want you to do timely, especially the notification. As Prof. Go has shown you, the notification is still not very good. And there is no reason why you cannot notify NRR the moment the patient comes in, right? And we have situations that after 2-3 years, we have get a notification that in 2020 there were patients who were not notified from 2017, right? And that should not happen. So uh, uh, the first unit that accepts the patient should do it the moment they accept. In a way, very much like how you do for SOXO patients, right? We have to register to get your to get the funding from SOXO. So really, we gave you a 1 month period to do it, but really, it's best to do it on the spot. Okay, but we still gave you a 1 month a window period to do the registration. And same with outcome, if patient has switched to another center or has died or switch modality, really you should do it immediately. But I'm repeating myself because I think this is important. Please do it within 1 month. Okay. Annual return, again, it is, we used to do it at the end, but really do it real time. We are doing as you can see on the slides, that these are the requirements, that vital signs once a month, dialysis performance every 6 months, lab every 3 months, serology every 3 months. You may not be doing the serology every 3 months, 6 months, but you should submit. Okay, if there is. Okay, and the window period for annual return submission is no later than 31st January on the last calendar year, which means the end of this year, by 31st January 2022, we expect all of it to come in, and the submission rate needs to be above 80% for the center for CCAPS to renew your license. Okay, because you need the certificate, right? So we are doing that, but really, as I said, if you don't do this, if you do this in a timely manner, you don't have to rush at the end of the year to do this, right? So the connectivity now is such that really there should be very few reasons or few centers who are not able to get connectivity, right? But I recognize that yes, it does. Sometimes in certain areas it can be a bit slow and all that. Uh, yes, so you have to select a time to enter the data. Yeah. Um, okay. So and since January this year, it has been Ministry of Health requirement for those who are getting subsidy from Ministry of Health, from JPA, that they need to register the patient and get the certificate of patient registration to get the subsidy for the patient and for renewal and for renewal of the subsidy and new applications. Okay, the same as I said, the same with JPA panel. For each patient that comes in, you have to submit the QOP, and this one is for the hemodialysis and erythropoietin subsidy for the NGOs. Okay, so it's both required for private as well as NGO centers now. Okay, so 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 once you have got the patient registered, then you can download it from the site itself. You don't have to write to us. It's all in the system. Mr. Chu and his staff has been doing training and retraining. So if you need to train your staff, if they're not sure what to do, please write to him and we can organize that. Yeah. And you also need to have this letter of participation with NRR for your uh, uh, for your um, uh, for your submission to CCAPS and so on. Okay, so this is the response rate so far in 2020. I know this is a busy slide, but please make sure that someone reviews your results. As you can see, the accepted values range from overall is only about 54%. That and some of them are not uh, values that needs to be corrected. So please be careful about what values that you choose, what units you choose. Okay. Again, as I said, if you need training, then we can organize that. Yeah. What we have not done is do an audit, but in the future we may look into that. Okay. Only about 50, slightly over 50% of patients are active. There's still a lot of non-active users. Because the paramedics are the one that usually submits, so you can see that the compliance among paramedics are the best, 61%. But you see, among the doctors is only hardly 14%. So we need that to improve. Okay. So who benefits from all that? Obviously, Ministry of Health and the government of Malaysia, because we use this data to look at our policies, our standards for budgeting purposes. Okay, and the politicians as well, they use it to look at the situation with dialysis as well. The tertiary education and universities also use that for their theses and to help publications. And we really want to support publication to showcase our registry. So we encourage people, not just from universities, from anyone with a good idea for research idea, to write in, excuse me, to request for uh, request to data for their publication. Okay, for subspecialty training program as well, and for media, and it's also useful for the corporate bodies. Okay, because they use that to plan their business and see how where the business opportunities are. Okay, how many people are on dialysis? What's a trend for home dialysis, PD, and so on. Okay, so really, it is very important for us to make sure that our data is robust and we have good data submission. Okay, rubbish in, rubbish out. Yes, we can report on anything, but if the data that we get from the source data providers is not of good quality, we cannot adjust for that. Okay? So it is important for us that you submit good data to us and complete data. Okay. Now, we also need vaccination data, and I would just want to take this opportunity to make sure to request from everyone, please get your patients vaccinated and give us that data. I think it's very important. Okay? We hope that all patients, really there should be very few reasons why patients cannot be vaccinated for COVID. Okay? Yes, some patients are quite recalcitrant, but believe me that if you come back to them and advise them again, especially now with our numbers going up, many will now agree. But please talk to them, the doctors, especially the nephrologists, please talk to them. Don't rely on your nurses to give them information, especially the recalcitrant ones. Okay? And don't forget new patients that are coming in. Please get them vaccinated. It is important to your staff and your staff as well. It's important to your unit to protect your patients, to protect your staff, to avoid getting infections. It is a headache for us whenever a patient comes down with COVID, because it's very hard to organize replacement nurses, because these are specialized nurses. You just cannot pull a nurse from anywhere to do dialysis. So please, I implore you to help yourselves, help your patients to help yourselves to get vaccinated. Okay, so so this is the current situation, that we are still not getting the data from you. Okay, as you can see in the last column, we are more than 80% have not submitted their COVID data. Okay, so please submit that. So I won't go through. This is by state. Again, as you can see, the data is not very good. Okay, uh, okay. So and this is going to be a problem with budget cuts. Okay. Okay. Now, one of the challenges for us is NRR starving, and as you can see, our maximum numbers were only 5, and now we are down to 2. Okay, so please, we need help from everyone. And as I said, the challenges is how do we get enough staff, getting statistics, IT staff, getting data integrity, getting data reporting on time, and getting sustainable funding to ensure NRR. So lastly, I would like to thank Mr. Chu, who did these slides and provided this data for this presentation. Thank you for your attention.
Right. Hello again, everyone. We'll proceed first to take questions from Dato Ong Lok Meng. Take questions to Dato Ong Lok Meng. If you could post any queries that you have, we will proceed with this part first. But we are joined by Mr. Chu Cheng Lu, who is the manager for the NRR. So any other questions about submissions, etc., you can also post out. In fact, one has already come in from ASEAN from Malacca. And the question is, if the patient starts hemodialysis as an acute case, then upon discharge from the ward, they continue dialysis as a boarding patient. Do we need to register them directly to NRR?
Yeah, I know that is a difficult problem for hospitals and especially Ministry of Health, because a lot of patients that end up in private and in NGOs go through Ministry of Health. The question is, should you register them as patients? I think that is not an easy answer for me to give you. I think you need to discuss with your nephrologist. Is this patient end stage? Yeah? If this patient is end stage, my suggestion to you is to register this patient, even though this patient may not be your patient long term. Yeah? But I think that is something you need to discuss with your nephrologist. Okay, but I think in the private sector and in NGOs, usually by the time you receive these patients, you know that they are very likely to be end stage, right? And I would prefer that you register. Okay, at the most, if they turn out to be not end stage, acute, or chronic, for example, we can always write into NRR and we can remove this patient if this patient does not turn out to be end stage. Okay? I know that that means that there's a little bit more work done, but I would rather have over notification than under notification. We can deal with the over notification later, right? But if you think that this patient is acute kidney injury that goes on to dialysis, then no, because this is a end-stage renal disease registry. I hope that answer your question. Chu, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, correct. It's better than we collect the patient so that at least we know the flow. The patient is from goes where, from where to where.
Okay, because as I said, that the starting point, because the date of starting dialysis is often in Ministry of Health, especially for NGO patients. Okay? And many NGOs, when they go there, they don't actually know the start date. Right? But if you can register the patient immediately, then you can get the start date, right, of dialysis rather than start date at your center. So if this patient comes to you first, I mean later comes to you in the NGO or in the private, your question to patients is when did you start your dialysis, and put that as the start date of dialysis and not coming to your center. Okay. And if there is some discrepancy between, let's say, what Ministry of Health does and what you do, then we can always reconcile that later, right?
Okay, we're joined by Professor Halim at Hopper. So thanks, Halim, and Professor Go is here as well. So if you have any questions to them in particular,
Sorry, my network was cut off since when?
do we want to try to go back to the point at which your lecture was cut off? Prof. Go.
It was cut
Yeah.
off since when?
I think we did not. It was halfway through
in
topic
the middle,
one.
yeah.
Yes.
No,
In the middle
it was probably 5 minutes only, correct? Am I right?
Yes, yes.
Can we try to go on to topic, back to topic one or topic two? If there's a clear break between the two, at least we can see topic two. The overview of the MBTR up to 2020. I think the data is what everybody's looking forward to hearing about. Are we all right
But the
to
system,
go back to...
I don't think the system able to do that.
I will call them just one.
Who is talking?
Are we live?
We probably are, but that's all right, I think.
Are we live or not?
I think we are. Sorry for the technical difficulties. As I said, this is the first time we are doing this live.
I consider that as
yeah, so we are doing it.
I think this is a stress test, and all of us pass. You can skip echo. It's just okay.
Maybe it's sabotaged by Sunita and Halim, no?
Yeah.
Definitely not.
I think we are sharing the thing, but I still have a question, Dato Ong and Prof Go, and I know we are discussing. So, how long can we maintain this registry? And that's number one. And number two is that what else will this registry help us in policy making? In future, because it's expensive. Yeah. First question is, how long do you think that you?
Well, if you ask me, I hope forever. How long forever lasts? Certainly beyond my lifetime, because I think this is extremely important for the country. As we need to plan this, as you can see from Bujang's paper, that the rate that is going up is frightening, and we are expecting something like 100,000 in by 2040, beyond 100,000. So this is something that's frightening, and we need to carry on this data. Okay, as I had presented, I think the benefit is to a lot of people, even to the industry, to the planners, to the policy makers. It's very hard to plan for budgeting without solid data. And it was the foresight of Dr. Zaki and Dr. Lim Teck On and Dr. Lim Yam Ngo to start this registry from small. Okay, so we really have grown. So I think we have to carry on until something happens. The question is, how do we get funding? We have our proposals. So the thing is, the government has to see a value in this registry, and we have to convince our higher ups and the government that we need to raise funds for this. Right now, we are only doing this through voluntary. I think NKF has helped us a lot, and some industries have also provided some funds, but this is insufficient. Okay, so we really need a proper funding mechanisms. Various countries have various ways of funding this. We have been trying to get ministry and the government of Malaysia to realize that this is important. We have been doing this for nearly 20, 30 years now. Okay, so it is going to be, so it is for us as a community to stress on the importance of this. And it's not just for just us in Ministry of Health or for me as a chairperson to push this. Sorry, a long answer.
No, no. Can we share the slide?
Yes, Professor Goh, could you please try sharing your slides and we can go back to your talk because
I think
we
maybe
really want
it's
to
just
hear it.
Q&A better. How long sessions do we have some more?
We have
We
until
have
10:30, and then there's a
Oh,
coffee
we-
break.
30 session.
Yeah,
I see.
so people don't
But we
mind
have
going into coffee break.
system seems to have problem, isn't it? The system seems to have problem. Correct?
yeah. If we can question and answer also, if you think that's more appropriate now, I think we are okay with that.
Because the technical people doesn't seem to be able to resolve it, right?
Can I
At
ask
the moment.
Casey, are you ready to share? Are you ready to help to share?
Yeah, but the share button also can't even activate now. You're blocking me.
Meanwhile, Prof. Go, once you manage to share the technical, when you manage to share, please share straight away. I have
You
question
can
to Prof.
continue the
Go.
Q&A. Yeah.
Yeah, Prof. Go, because
Yeah.
because you are actually have a lot of vision.
Meanwhile,
Prof. Go, once you manage to share the
how
technical,
do you
when you manage to
think
share,
it will
please share
evolve
straight
now,
away.
you know?
I have
You
question
can
to Prof.
continue the
Go.
Q&A.
The data not only we use
I-
for policy making to help us to make policy, but in managing patient, do you think measuring urine output is going to be important in future? You think maybe we have enough data, conventional hemodialysis versus HDF, which one is better? So what is your vision to use this data in clinical management? Measuring urine
Yeah.
output is going to be important in
Actually,
I
future.
think, sorry.
You think maybe we have
Hello?
enough
so
data,
maybe
conventional
I will
hemodialysis
just
versus
finish what I will
HDF,
just
which
answer
one is
that
better?
question, and then
So
Prof.
what
Go, you
is
can
your
carry on.
vision?
Yeah. I
I
mean,
thought that question is
the,
addressed to me,
data
Dr.
in
Ong.
clinical management.
yeah. I presume to me, Prof. Halim, did you address it to me? I will just finish what
Prof. Go, but
I will
both
just
of you
answer
can
the
answer.
question
It's
and then
difficult to
Prof.
see
Goh,
you all
you
nowadays, but
follow
at least I
up.
can
Yeah.
see you virtually.
I mean,
So,
question is addressed to me.
so I'll both ask question.
You can answer that to
Do
me,
you want to?
Prof. Halim.
Sorry,
Did
do you want to
address it
answer
me?
or what? Because that questions was
Prof.
addressed to
Go,
me,
but
I
both
thought.
of you can answer. It's difficult.
But
Yeah,
Then
anyway,
go
you
ahead,
want to
Prof.
go
Go,
on?
so at least I can
Yeah.
see you virtually.
No, go ahead, Prof. Go ahead.
So
I
I'll
mean,
both ask question.
I think we have to differentiate what registry and research is all. Do you want to answer or what? Registry has its purpose of a registry because it's huge database. Therefore, it has epidemiological importance and obviously policymaker. But when we start mixing registry and research, we dissect it like splitting the hair, go into very detail, that have some implication. So my proposal is that for all detailed research, for example, if we need to look into the residual urine, which is very important, but that need a lot more details work, I propose that we should have is a separate report. That's why I mentioned it in my earlier slide, but I'm not sure people have seen it or not. It should be a special report, for example. We can look into, for example, fracture, risk of fracture post-transplant, various types of kidney bone disease, and obviously, is there any specific treatment, for example, in the PD, whereby this has influence or have a tremendous impact on residual urine, preservation of renal urine, etc. I think it's very important that if not we mix it up together, then specific we maybe treatment, for example, that we are in the PD, whereby this has influences.
Yeah, I agree with Prof. Go that we should separate this because normally for this kind of small those questions are important, but I think it will complicate the collection of the data. But having said that, I think what we are trying to do is to try to get the data back to the data providers. I'm working out with the vendors on how to get that done so you have access to your own data it, through Excel sheet or something. I'm also planning perhaps in the future some of these reports can be generated online, that the center report card can be generated online instead of waiting for a statistician to do that. Okay. The other thing that we can try to actually we have developed the clinical part of patient data management. I think Dr. Wong Hin Seng did a brilliant job in doing that, but unfortunately there were very few users who wanted that module. And because it complicated the data collection, we kind of stepped back on that. But honestly, if there are people who feel that that is a good, that you want to do that, please write to us and we can reactivate that. Yeah. But we need people to buy into that because that adds extra data points. And I think people are already tired of submitting so much data. So for registry, we try to limit the number of data to essential data only.
Thank you, Datuk. Thank you, Prof.
Okay, perhaps while we're taking questions, there are two questions that have come in, if that's okay. One is a question about when the post-mortem is not done for a dialysis patient who died at home, the cause of death will be unknown cause. Does a center need to provide extra medical information based on our subjective and objective data?
The short answer to that is yes. Yes, I know it is difficult to ascertain the cause of patients' death when they die at home, but I think we can second guess, right? So if a patient has, for example, has chest pain and all that, second guess, right? So if a patient has, for example, has chest pain and all that, uh, uh, you know, from history and all that, then you can then put that as very likely cardiovascular, rather than leave everything as unknown. Or for example, patient has metastatic CA and then sent home to die. Yes, is death at home, but you can know what the cause of death is. So, so although we don't want you to simply put anything out of the blue, plucked from the sky, but I think the clinician, the doctor, should be able to determine as much as possible from history. So, so my advice to dialysis staff is please ask your clinician or get details from the hospital that you know that they were admitted before, right? If they have a cause of death, then from the certificate from the hospital, then that will be good. But if they die from home, I think as orang sakit tua, uh, uh, it's not helpful, right? Because that is not a cause of death.
Okay, so a few other questions, I think related to delays in getting the death certificate because of EMCO. And relatives can't get death certificate because the office not being operating. So the center will submit later beyond 1 month. I think people are concerned because Dr. Ong, you mentioned just now that they should submit within 1 month. And people are asking also similarly, what is the consequence if a new patient is not registered within a month? So there's two sets of questions.
Yeah. If you don't submit within a month, that will affect your submission rate, and if it falls below 80%, when you come for new submission, then you will not be able to get your CCAPS registration, okay, renewal. So for new patients, there is no reason why you cannot register them. Okay? For death cert, I do agree. My suggestion to you is, since we have this 1 month thing, that you register first. You can put unknown for the time being, then put in a note there that you are in the process, and then you can then communicate NRR, and we can update the data once you get that. I know this is causing a lot of issues with CMCO, but my advice to you is still submit, okay, with whatever data that you have.
Okay, a question here, a quick question. If a patient comes for transit dialysis, just 1 to 2 months, and then expires during his stay, during that transit, should we register as our center patient?
No. I think that one you would notify their center that this patient has died, and it is the responsibility of that center that registered the patient to put in the outcome. Chu, am I right?
Yeah, correct.
Okay, perhaps we'll just take a break from the questions. I'd like to ask Professor Goh if he could continue with his lecture. Prof. Goh, he's already sharing.
If you're kind enough to allow me to present, then I will proceed lah. But if you think that I should not present, then please tell me so. Then I will just stop for both of you and Dr. Ong. Is that okay? Is that fair enough?
No. Yes, please go ahead. We have at least 20 minutes. Hang on, sorry. We have at least 20 minutes to coffee break time, and coffee break of half an hour after that. So I think we can go over time. And please go ahead, Prof. Goh. Take all the time you need.
So where is the technical people? Are they able to show the screen or they cannot?
Your screen is already showing.
We can see your slide. I think it's not slideshow, but I think just carry on.
Is it a slideshow now, or it's not?
It's not slideshow.
It's still not a slideshow, is it?
Yeah, it's just like.
But you can see, yeah. Okay, so as of 2020, there are only 9,006 new dialysis patients, which is actually a drop of almost 400 compared to 2019. But of course, we need to be validated. But then knowing that what is happening in 2020, we are a bit concerned about this. It might be there are many patients who are end stage are not able to receive dialysis appropriately because of the pandemic, access to hospital, etc. And that come up with 276 new dialysis patients per million population. One of the positive point here is that for the transplant rate is a 5 per million populations despite the challenging time in 2020. I think that credit must be given to the transplant team. This is just a graphic. So with the prevalence, there are about 49,000 people as of end of last year. That gives us 1,500 per million population patients on the dialysis, and that is quite go in line with the predictive model that I shared with you just now. And in terms of a transplant rate per million population, it's been stabilizing, even though the new transplant patients seems to be increasing. So probably we have to work on death with functioning graph that will affect the prevalence rate of transplant. So you can see that it's very interesting to see this predictive model that is put up by Dr. Lim Teck On more than 10 years ago. It's just that how good the model was. It was predicted then that by 2020, we should reach about 50,000 people on various form of kidney replacement therapy, which is what exactly I just shared with you. And in terms of per million population, is a 1,600 per million population. And that compared to 10 years ago, which is only 800 per million population, and the cumulative dialysis population is about 24,000. It's almost double. So this one I've mentioned to you before. The good news here is in terms of per million population, transplant is able to shows the reverse of the trend, which previously it shows downward trends, and now from 3 per million population in 2016, it has been bettered to 5 per million population. In terms of prevalence, it's almost the same. It's about 50 plus, 58, 59 per million population for the transplant. So where does that put us in the world map? 10 years ago, we are number 35 as far as incidence of ESKD is concerned. And in 10 years later, we are number 10. I'm not too sure whether we should be very proud of this, but at least it shows that we are able to provide dialysis to people whoever are in need. So where are we heading with this type of prediction? I think just now in the panel discussion, we are very concerned about more patients who will need dialysis because of the aging population, because of the diabetes mellitus, etc. If you compare to the neighboring countries in the Asia Pacific, the developed countries are, for example, like Taiwan and Japan, they have more than 2,000 plus per million population, which is about 10 years ago. At the moment, we are about 1,500 per million population of 2020. So probably that is where we will head forward. We sincerely hope that what this paper has predicted will not come truth. And as I mentioned, the driving force is we becomes a developed countries. We are able to provide more dialysis patients. Probably we will breach 2,000 per million population by then. And I just want to show you in terms of diabetes as a cause of end-stage kidney disease, I think we are still continuing the trend, even though the last couple of years, there might be indications that it has been plateauing. So this is the latest from 2018. There are about 66% of the new end-stage kidney disease patients are due to diabetes. You can see that on the third row. What about aging population? You can see this graphic presentation. More than half of the new end-stage kidney disease in patients, more than half, are above 55 years old. And it is still increasing in trend. Even though the total numbers of transplants seems to be dwindling, but the numbers done by local seems to be able to withhold the downward trend, as I mentioned before. Even though this is 2018 validated data, but we look into the 2020, we have done a lot more transplant. There are other new center transplant added into the Malaysian scene, which is in university, for example. Another university is doing transplant, which is UITM, and also a private counterpart. This is to show that home dialysis will continue to increase, because at one time in the 1980s and 1990s, we have a quite huge amount of patients receiving home dialysis, whether it's HD or PD. In the recent years, there's a dwindling of the home HD, office HD patient, but we hope that in the near future, there'll be increasing numbers of patients able to receive home dialysis, even though vast majority will be still PD, but there will be some patients should be able to undergoing home HD soon. In terms of PD patients, you can see that the vast majority of the PD patients are actually in the public sector, more than 99%. Only very few patients are from private or NGO. And the new PD patient reported in the 1918 is 4,500. And if you compare 4,599 PD patient versus HD patient in the government sector, that's almost 50% already, 40 to 50%. But if you compare the private sector, the PD penetration is very, very much lower. Therefore, the PD growth, we should thinking of strategy how to introduce this modality beyond public sector. As of 2020, there were new 1,500 CAPD patients. And at the end of 31st December, there are 5,382 PD patients. That is a prevalence rate. So even though the new PD patients seems to be a lot, but you can see that the increase in terms of prevalence patients is only 1/3 of the new additions every year. So what does that mean? That means that the dropout rate from PD is still quite substantial. So we really need to look into this area if we want to increase the populations of PD. The peritonitis rate reported in the registry is always above 40 patient month, in 1 in 40 patients month. However, this is registry data. It is unlike peritonitis rate reported in a clinical trial. Clinical trial, whether it's a CAPD-1, CAPD-2, CAPD-3, or our recent peritonitis trial, including the recently local make product, are usually reported between above 28 to 33 per patient's month. So we have to interpret registry data a little bit more cautious. In terms of distribution of dialysis patients, you can see that vast majority is still concentrated in the West Coast. I just want to show you that what we have shown you 10 years ago. You can see that this is the prevalence rate of dialysis patient per million population. 10 years ago, half of the state are actually below average. You can see that the bottom half, the average for Malaysia then was about 1,100. You can see that below that dialysis prevalence rate were states like Pahang, Kedah, Terengganu, Sabah, Sarawak, Perlis, and Kelantan. Those in blue color. And the other half are above the national average. What happens 10 years later? This is 10 years later. You can see that only 4 states are below national average now. The national average is about 1,300 per million population dialysis provision rate. So which are the states that's affected? Kelantan, Perlis, Sarawak, and Pahang. And the other second observations that even though they are below the national average, the gap is very much narrower. Before that, the lowest and the highest provision rate were almost 3.5 to 4 times. But you can see that the current one is only about double, which is about 900 to 1,900. So I think that just symbolizes the correct directions that this country is adopting. Both the works and the work done by the government, private sector, Ministry of Education, and the NGO, ensuring that all Malaysians who need dialysis, they should be able to receive dialysis wherever they are, whether it's a rural area or urban area. And this is an active achievement by the active policy towards that direction. So if you look into account of population, income, and how does that influence dialysis provision, and you can come up with this interesting observation. You can see that again, the top half are all those states that belongs to the West Coast, for example, like Kuala Lumpur, Selangor, Johor, Pulau Pinang, Perak, etc. But if you plot them according to the income, and then you pay attention to the purple bar. The purple bar at the bottom, which is symbolizing the dialysis provision. You can see that the income difference among the state can be 2.5, but the provisions of dialysis is a much less, which is that means the variations in the dialysis provision, the gap is much smaller than the variations in terms of the income, because the income can be different almost up to 3 times. But the provisions of dialysis, the variations among the state, whether those from the West Coast, East Coast, Northern area, or the Southern area, is almost only less than half. In terms of survival, we are only able to share with you this for the 2020 data. You can see that the trend, that the narrowing in terms of mortality rate for both PD and HD continue to hopefully to be narrower, and the PD seems to be stabilizing, and HD also seems to be stabilizing. There's still substantial observational difference between survival among the HD and PD patient. However, that need to be looked into, as there may be a case mix difference and variations. We are not able to look into whether the trend that we observed a couple of years ago in terms of survival among HD and PD patient, according to the entry of the year of entry. We hopefully that this trend will no longer be seen, because earlier we saw that those who enter the dialysis program early seems to not fare as well as those later years. So there is a concern about that. In terms of nutritional parameters, comparing HD and PD, as the usual, the serum albumin level will be a difference by about 5 grams per liter, and total cholesterol also higher in the PD patients. And but the good thing is the hemoglobin are similar, and also less patients, less numbers of patients, percentage of PD patients requiring erythropoietin. In terms of blood pressure control, again, if you compare the PD and HD,
the percentage or the proportions of HD patients achieve a target blood pressure control less than 140/90 seems to be better in the PD group versus the HD group. For example, that the median proportions of HD patient achieving target BP control in 2018 is only about 20%. 20% as shown here. And the median blood pressure, systolic blood pressure target is 154. But the PD patient, the median proportions of PD patients are able to achieve the target BP control is almost 10% higher, which is 34 versus 24 in HD patient. And the target systolic blood pressure is also 10 millimeter mercury different between HD and PD. So in summary, dialysis patients numbers and rates continue to increase, and we know the driving force is still in play, which the population is continuing to age. I don't think the aging population in some proportion in this country is continue to increase because we are still a middle income country. When you move forward to upper middle income country, obviously the proportion will become larger. Diabetes remains the main cause of ESKD, about 66%. And when, as I mentioned, when we move towards economic regions joining the developed countries like Taiwan and Japan or Singapore, then we probably anticipate in terms of numbers of patients needing dialysis, probably more than 2,000 per million population. The good news is, I think transplant has shown early signs we are moving towards the right direction, particularly new transplant. And because even though we have the challenge of COVID-19 in 2020, but in terms of per million population, I think it achieved, it reversed the trend, which previously was about 3 per million population. For the last 2 years, is 4 and 5 per million population. Of course, rapid increase in the numbers of dialysis population is the main drive force in the private sector, and the government remain the main source of funding for dialysis, about 60% plus minus, whether it's new patients or patients on or prevalence patient. We sincerely hope that home dialysis, especially PD, will be continue to increase in numbers. There are disparities still exist in terms of dialysis provision among the urban and rural states, but this disparity, as I've shown you, seems to be narrow over the last 10 years. From the previously, there are half of the states are below the national average to currently there's only 4 states below the national average. Not only that, the difference between the lowest and the highest, the gap is also narrow. Previously, it's 3.5 to 4 times different between the lowest provision state versus the highest provision state. Now, this has narrowed to about only double. We are doing reasonably well, I think, in most of the parameters. But as I mentioned, we still need to look into the trend of death in the hemodialysis patient, with particular reference to new end-stage kidney disease. I'm very concerned about this new end-stage kidney disease.
I do not know why
we are actually still not very certain about the impact of COVID-19 on dialysis scene as of 2020. But what we have observed here is there have been drop about 500 new dialysis patients from previously about 9,500 to currently about 9,000. We are not sure. We need to validate this data. But one of the concerns obviously is a new end-stage patient may have died more prematurely, or they are unable to gain access to
top right corner
dialysis population.
Is there a view button?
There's a full screen button.
Thanks for all those contributing to this NRR report, and also
are you using Mac?
want to thank
Mac.
our industry partners.
Yes, I have
And
same problem.
also, I take
We
this
don't have the view
opportunity
button and we
to
cannot see others.
announce World Congress on Nephrology.
Okay,
I hope that
ada
you all can
teman
mark in
sini.
your calendar. We are organizing
Yes,
World
yes.
Congress
I
on
cannot see other
Nephrology
people too.
together with ISN and APCN.
Alright.
And
So,
on
Dr. Chow,
I tried-
February
yeah,
24 to 27.
yeah,
As
able
of
to
I
today,
can
answer
I
the
think we are
question,
still planning for hybrid.
Yeah,
So meaning
questions I
they
can
are
see.
inpatient as well
Yes.
as
So I will move
in-person
to the live
meeting as
session
well
where
as
the
hybrid.
AV team and my colleagues will
Hopefully
be
that
there to assist you,
we are
and the
able
AV
to
team will
maintain that.
give you a queue, 10-second queue before goes live.
For all
Just
those who want to
stand by in
submit
the
an
room.
abstract, just a gentle reminder
Okay,
again,
just remember to mute
the
yourself.
deadline for the abstract
Then
submissions
I
is
will transfer you to the live room
22nd
now.
of September. Thank you very much.
Thank you very
Just
much,
now I can
Prof.
see my
Goh,
face,
for that
now my face
excellent
gone already.
lecture, and also
You look just fine to me, Dr. Lily.
I know, but I could see my video just now, but now it's gone missing. It's only black. I think I don't know. I'm not sure why. Like even Dr. Chow also got problems now. FaceTime.
Dr. Chow is muted.
Okay, now I use my.
Dr. Masara, I tried to move you into the room, but you are still in the main room. Because you are supposed to join
It's not live.
Dr. Yi.
thank you very much, Prof. Goh, for that lovely lecture. A lot of detail work I can see and lovely slides. Can we just take some questions now? We can go up to 10:45 because we have a
Dr.
coffee
Masara,
break
do you
until
get any
11 o'clock.
notification to join
Is that
Club
all
Room?
right with everybody, the panel?
No.
Okay. I think a lot of questions
No,
have come in
okay, I
asking
will
about
try.
the NRR sigil because there's some comment that the last
I will try to
sigil
move you into
dapat
the
in
correct room.
2017. So bagaimana sigil 2018-2019? Perhaps Chu, you could help us with that question.
Oh, yeah, sure. Okay, so for the center
Hitam kau
certificate,
tengok sini.
compliance of certificate, currently we just have to use the summary of center participation card to replace the certificate because we have, as you all know, our report have not complete yet. So for that certain year, so we cannot come out with the compliances and the center report card at this moment.
Okay. Another question, perhaps Prof. Goh, you could help with this one. NRR, does it keep established complication details?
Dr. AD, are you able to hear me?
Sorry, you are expecting something from me?
You are muted.
I missed your question. Sorry.
Sorry,
I
the
cannot
question
see
that
the
came.
question one. Is it?
Okay.
Can the panel
Okay.
see the questions or
Yes, I can hear you clear. You are
because we
using
are not sharing the questions
the
with the
laptop
panel?
and the headset for
Okay,
audio,
I
is
had
it?
difficulty just now. I think you have to go to the screen on the right and then press on
Yeah, I
MSN
can hear you. I can see
Congress
you.
track
No, no,
1.
no. It looks
You have to
it
choose
sounds
that
just
before
fine.
you
So I will
yes.
transfer you to the room, yeah.
Okay,
Thank
okay.
you.
Correct. Couldn't find it either.
Now
Okay.
which question is that?
Their questions are not numbered, so it's a bit difficult. But
Oh.
this one is just asking whether the NRR is collecting data on complications. So I think you mentioned just now about CKD, MBD, etc. But
In
you
general,
could-
I think the answer is yes. In general, but as I mentioned, of course, NR data is not just reporting new patient and then counting the numbers of patients, not only socioeconomic data but also clinical data. So there are quite tremendous numbers of clinical data, whether the patient's pre-existing comorbidities, underlying causes, even laboratory medications, as well as outcome. So the answer definitely is yes. And the heart outcome, for example, death, and then other complications like anemia, renal bone disease, blood pressure, even parameters that representing nutrition such as cholesterol, BMI. These are all included in NR data. So it's a very huge database actually. But saying that, want to remind again, this is not a clinical study. Registry has a registry function. Clinical study has clinical study function. Sometimes when we are not clear, we can blur the line. So that sometimes can pose some challenges to both the registry manager as well as the statistician.
Thank you, Prof. Goh. There's another question here posted by Dr. Louis Lantia. Looking at the slope of the graph of incidence and prevalence, the rate of increase appears to be slowing. Is it possible that the incidence is about to plateau?
Dr. Yi, I'm going to off my video and mute myself, and while we wait for the other moderator to come in.
Because there's substantial difference,
Okay.
almost about 5%.
Yeah. And
5%
we will cue you when you are about to come on.
Patients that we are talking about in the new NCT.
Thank you. Have a good show.
Mind there are few possible explanations I said. It may be impact of this pandemic COVID-19. How does it impact us? Of course, it can impact by disrupt the normal SOP.
Oh, at the start video there will have a arrow, little arrow. You can press it and choose the choose virtual background.
Now most of the hospital, for example, are concentrating on managing COVID-19.
Yeah, on the virtual platform, we are unable to load
the patient been delayed receiving what they're supposed to receive. Therefore,
Dr. Eddie, would you like to say something?
Data? Yes, we have the data in my center.
Yes.
As I mentioned, I think we miss it because of time constraint.
Yes.
Yes.
Observe is that new end-stage kidney disease patient, they seems to have high mortality if they do not receive regular dialysis in an appropriate time, in a short time, and if they do not receive...
Your voice is a little bit loud, so we'll just check.
And try to reverse it and see whether that will
is it all right?
The outcome of the patients or not. Because in the previous approach is that new NC sometimes
maybe you want to say something.
Months or sometimes
yes.
Test
6 months to establish a proper applications of funding, establish dialysis access,
now we can. Okay, it's good.
I think we have to shorten it to 2 to 4 weeks, and that will show difference in survival among these two operations.
Thank you very much. Morning, Dr. Pierre. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, good morning. This is live stream room. We will be going on live from here. The AV team will queue each and every one of you individually when you are about to go on live. For some speakers who are pre-recorded, they will only come in during the question and answer session. So when anyone is on live, your mics should be muted so that it does not disturb the streaming out. So I have tag checked Dr. Yi and Dr. Eddie. So right now I will proceed to tag checking Dr. Pierre. Good morning. I think it's bright and early in Italy.
Good morning. Good morning to you. It's correct. Since I cannot see myself, I can just hear you, but I cannot see my my screen. I can see and hear you. I can see you, but I can see myself on the upward screen. Is it correct to be? Is correct. So I cannot see me. Can you see me?
See us. You should be able to see.
No. I can see you, but I cannot see myself on the screen. Is it correct?
One of the questions is whether
at the right upper bottom, can you have can you see got one icon which mention view?
I can see this bottom where on this upper let me
right upper right.
Yes, I see.
Have a view. Then you try to select gallery.
Slide gallery. I can see where is it. This button. I don't see this. but indeed.
Okay. I try to share screen. Wait, yeah. Okay, so okay.
All right. I think some questions here asking if University is interested to do research with NRR support, providing the data and the technical support. Perhaps Dato Ong wants to
Wait for a
answer
while.
that one.
I think all requests for data need to be submitted to NRR in writing, and we have a committee
I
to vet
can see,
into that. Okay,
can see my
so
screen.
we need to
No.
be careful because this identifiable data.
Professor
Anyway,
Pierre, do you mind to try? Do you mind to try share your screen and let
yes,
me know?
what I was
Do
going to do. So I try to
My advice to you is
share my
to get
screen
copies
now.
of your
okay.
Okay, share my screen, but I cannot see my screen
institution.
with
Approve that
the
first before you request
okay.
data.
Let me.
Okay, Prof.
Can you see my screen
Yes, I
now?
can.
Okay, I still continues to not be able be seeing me, but it's not a big matter. The important is that you share my screen and you can hear me correctly and see my screen. So
Yes, we can. So,
all the
do you mind to like let it be in the full screen? Let your slide be in the full screen.
yes, no, nowadays no. I can try again just to be able to do this, and I will make it in the full screen. Can you see in the full screen?
Now? You mean now?
And in fact, there is
Yes,
a dedicated
I put it
members
in
coordinating in
my
Malaysia.
full screen presentation.
Yeah, I mean, we
Now
welcome
still haven't
any
in
and
full screen. We
all,
can
but
see
they all need to be
others like file
verified.
home.
But
Others.
I am in full screen indeed
Oh,
on
but
my
now we can.
computer at least.
I want to transfer
Oh,
patients out
okay.
to a new
Now we
center,
can
but
see
having
your
difficulty
screen.
because that new center is not yet registered.
Mm.
Any advice?
It's
Okay.
so I have not understood if you can see my screen in a presentation way or not.
Welcome everyone.
Have you been
My name
able
is
to
Dr.
see
Wong.
in presentation? I will try again. I will try again.
Can you please repeat
Okay.
the question?
Now just a moment,
Sure.
please.
The
One,
question was,
two.
I want to transfer out a
Can
patient
you
to
see
a
now
new
my
center,
screen?
but
Yes,
I have
I
difficulty
can.
to do that because
I
the
will
new center is not registered
turn
yet.
it
So
in
how will I
presentation
show that this
way
patient has left my center?
now.
Okay,
Set.
so
I will
Currently.
start to. Can you see now in a presentation?
We still saying with just now.
I don't know. I don't know
And the
what is
center
the
not
problem
have
in
an
this. Since
SDE
I
ID.
turn it on
okay, so
presentation.
for this, actually you just can update the
Okay.
patient's
Please wait.
outcome
Yeah.
to move to another center. So you no need to specify the center name if you don't know, or
Now I
Units
can
to
you again.
please
So the
register
problem is
your
that I
unit
understand
with
that you cannot
NRR
see my
because
screen
you
in
do need that
presentation way.
if
Yes.
And how
for
can
CAP
we
approval.
overcome this
Okay.
problem?
Okay, I think we're coming to the end of the time actually that we have taken, decided to extend to. I'd like to sort of thank everybody, the panel of speakers, and also Prof. Halim and Mr. Chu for joining us as well. I think we've had quite a long and lengthy discussion here. Thank you very much to all the audience as well for your patience. And I must apologize on behalf of the organizers for all the issues that we've had encountered this morning. I just leave you with a comment, perhaps that saying that we are all stakeholders in the NRR. We must continue to support NRR. And the start of this support is by religiously and timely submission of all the required data as we define in the policy requirement.
I can see
Thank you, everybody, for being a loyal NRR extended family. So with this, I say goodbye and I hope you enjoy the rest of the conference. Thank you very much.
I can send you anyway. Just let me just a minute. Could you please send me now? I have a lot of mails in my of course. Can you send me now, right now, and I will send you the